Welcome back. Let's talk about men and women are different. We have Yule and Yulette as our case study today, right? Not really, okay? We have some things we'll cover on this topic, but there's a topic that's funny enough. This was being suggested to me among many other topics, and I did a voting earlier on in the backstage that people should help me pick the topic to talk about, and overwhelmingly, majority said we should talk about men and women's brains explained perfectly. So let's talk about it. I'm not sure about the perfectly thing, but let's just give it a shot. Okay, I did some research. I had my own ideologies, if you will, just opinions, pure plain opinions, okay, around how that works. But yeah, I want us to talk about men or women's brains. First of all, let me ask you all in the chat, are men different from women when it comes to romance? When it comes to romance, are we different? Abi is just simple. Just make sure you marry a kind person. That's another nice thing we like to say on the internet. Just please marry a kind person. Right? Isn't that what we like to say? Just marry a kind person. Like, what are you trying to say? The rest of us that almost ended up in divorce or ended up divorced were not kind. They play. They play, okay? Anyway, are we different? Are men or women brain different completely? Chinima says in some ways. Okay, so there's that video that also you guys posted, but Ben posted it for me earlier again, so I had a chance to watch it and I thought it was on point. So I'm actually going to play that video first, and then we'll take it from there. Let's see. Hold on one second. I'm going to play that video first, and then we'll talk about it, because I do agree with the video a lot. Now the question is that when it comes down to application, that's where I want us to talk a little bit more. You know, there's a lot of stuff we can agree to when it comes to, like, for example, I said earlier that communication is key. It's not enough. I'm sorry. Okay, everybody says that. If everybody is saying it, then clearly it's not enough. There's got to be more to it, right? I might say effective communication. If you say effective communication, I'll agree with you. But all you always knew was effective communication. But I'm not even worried about that. I'm looking at people's actions. When they say communication, what they're talking about is just talking. They just want to talk. That's what they want to do. No listening involved. For the most part, no listening involved. Right? You talk a little bit, and then I talk a little bit. You talk a little bit, then I talk a little bit. And then hopefully we can match, and then voila, we're happy. Is that really how that works? Stop lying to yourself. You know that once you start communicating, you trigger the other person. And once they open their mouth, they trigger you. That's what happens. And then you end up in bass. That's what happens. It was all communication all along. But anyway, let me play this video. For those of you that I have to keep reminding, this is a reaction channel. So I react to stuff, so I will pause and play. If you want to go and watch the overview, check in the description later. If I remember, I'll put the link there. But the name of the video is called Men's Brains and Women's Brains with Mark Gungor, Nothing Box. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's see.
Discussing men's brains.
It sounds extremely lame. Boxes everywhere. Sometimes we say we compartmentalize. Men are better at compartmentalizing different things in our brain. It's true, but think about it in terms of like that's such a boring thing. But yes, ladies, welcome to the world of a man. It's boring. He just wants everything to be in the same space all the time. He wants it predictable. Okay, he doesn't need changes. Like, if you try to change anything, you're trying to scam him. Certainty is what we're talking about here. He wants to be certain things. Why should we talk about this? Okay, why should we learn this stuff? Right? So we're talking about men and women's brain explained perfectly. Why, when we're talking about romance, why should you learn this stuff? What's the need to learn this stuff? Right? Because after all you need to do is just communicate. And if we're dealing with two grown adults, it should be just good enough. Why is that not good enough? Right? That becomes the why. Right? That becomes the why. Why we need to talk about this. Right? Now, you can talk about this before you get married to a person, premarital counseling and all this kind of stuff. But you're not going to be able to comprehend all the way what this means in reality. It's perfectly fine to learn this stuff before you get married, okay? But I think you have to go through a marriage first to really wow, yes, I think that makes sense, I think that makes sense. Sparkleberry says, so men ain't entirely flexible. Not in this respect, okay? It's something we have to learn. It becomes a skill that you have to learn, right? It's not natural. It's not something that comes to us naturally. When it comes to processing issues in small to medium crisis, okay? If we're talking about big crisis, like a company is about to collapse, it's a different story, right? If we're talking about a country is about to go through some kind of war or something crazy, or we need to make sure that a bridge does not collapse like the one that happened in DC the other time, right? Yeah, corporate setting, yes. Men are capable when we're talking about large scale type of crisis. But marriage to a lot of men is just like, it should be as simple. If you can put things in boxes and we address this issue and not have to connect it with what happened 2 days ago, and then it should be that easy, right? And it's going to take an additional level of self-awareness, right? Emotional intelligence and awareness all around to say, it just kind of makes sense. Like, we're just probably different. And I'm not trying to be a woman, but I should at least have some awareness that there's a difference. But what we find is that we see women trying to get men to be like women. And we see men trying to get women to be like men. Right? And that's what we mean when we say, women are emotional, they're not logical. Yeah, it sounds like they accepted the fate of that, but it's a lie. They're actually trying to explain, and even when they end up in argument with you, when we end up in argument with you in a marriage, we're literally trying to get you to become us. That's why, and you're like, wait, no, and they're like, but wait, why are you changing the topic? We're still talking about this one, right? That's what this person is describing. Wait, this Western people thing, like, I beg. This is not us. I beg. This is not us. This is the Oyibo stuff. Why are you always trying to talk about this Oyibo stuff where we're like... It's always men that do that, by the way. It's always men. So we want to talk about everything else that Oyibo has done research on, but except this one, Abi. Except this one. They play. So now when you go back home to your husband, you say that's why you have your skull is empty. There's nothing there. You think that's not gonna pan out well. Just letting you know. That's not what we're talking about, by the way. The nothing box is like, just be still. Right? Just like, is that okay? Just peace. Just, of course not. Now we have to be careful with that, right? Because at some point you start to cross the line into, okay, what do we do with that? Do we start generalizing? Do we start, what do we do with that information? We can all laugh because we can relate at some point. Some people are like, that's patriarchy talking, I beg. Next, right? But we can all laugh, about this. Again, are we the same or we're different? That's what we're talking about. No, we're not really talking about Yulan and Duce. We're actually trying to learn something here. All right. But I think he made some really good point. It's something to pay attention to. A rule of thumb, 80-20. 80 men out of every 100 literally have boxes, and there's a nothing box there, and they would rather just go to that nothing box from time to time. And if he has to handle some issues, then he will go into that specific box, handle the issue. It's an issue. That means there's a problem. But the woman will connect the problem with all the possible things that can go wrong, and that becomes a very complicated thing for a man to handle. Also for the woman to handle, because she's trying to say, hey, what about this? What about this? Like, wait, what about what? This is the issue. We're trying to deal with this one issue. And it's like, and then she's like, wait, what? You can't see all these other things. Well, I can see it. Also, I've heard from Dr. Kingsley, Pastor Kingsley before, that men, and I agree with him 100%, women can multitask when it comes to just, we can multitask, again, when it comes to big crises, right? When it comes to problem solving, men, problem solving is what gets a man going, right? But when it comes to marriage, romantic issues, a typical man is like, why are we calling that a problem? What is it? Just talk to me and it's over. Right? Well, it's not exactly over. Talk to me, I rub you on your back, right? And I'm like, okay, can we move on right now? And he doesn't realize that can we move on is connecting to other side. Like, this is exactly how we said can we move on like 2 or 3 days ago, and then we ended up back in the same poto. And this is the issue. This is what we keep talking about. It's like, oh God, and it's driving him wild, right? And you as a lady is also driving you wild that he keeps repeating the same mistake. As far as he's concerned, that mistake that he did 2-3 days, or sorry, years ago, was in that box. We've covered that box. We've moved on, right? Today's mistake is another issue, a separate box entirely. Can we handle this one box, this one issue out of the box, finish it, fix it, put it back, and go back to the nothing box, right? It's very important that all of us, men or women, understand that not so that we can change to robots. We'll never be robots. We're going to be what we are. But self-awareness, when you are self-aware, half of the battle is won. Okay? Like you take a whole chunk of the issue off, the weight, you take it off of yourself just by being aware. Right? You might even overreact small. A tad be like, oh, then you remember, okay, all right, babe, to talk to me. All right? And then you calm down, and then she gets to say everything she wants to say, because she actually, this is the way she approaches healing, right? Talking it all the way through, right? This is what frustrates you more, right? So when you're in the middle, when you were dating each other and it was early on in the beginning, you compliment each other, you had a prize, right? Your focus was the prize. So you were willing to listen, and you watch her beautiful lips talking all day long as she talk, and she continued to talk and connect with you, thinking it's always going to be that way. You know what they say about honeymoon, right? Very quickly, all right? Maybe 2 years. If you do well, 2 years in complacency, entered, he's not listening, is dismissive, because it's like, hey, I've heard the same thing. You're like, I want to connect. That's how you connect. That's how he disconnects. He wants to run away until he finds out, like, wait, this is my household. I can't just run from my problems. My problems are opportunities. I need to engage them, right? And then create another level of awesomeness. Well, in the beginning, that's going to be tough. So that's what we're talking about right now. You can, everything he said, the boxes, the nothing box, all that kind of stuff, you can paste that across this concept. You can paste that across even the anti-seducer thing that we talk about from time to time, the poisons, right? We can start applying those things, and we start to see the issues there. What I see with Yule and Yulette, somebody said Yulette earlier, Judy Austin. What I see is that Yule was that guy. Judy Austin was basically escapism for him. Okay? He was indulging in escapism, and it was what it was. Does that mean that what's her name, May, was just being bad and just nagging and others? No, but he might be seeing it as nagging, or it could just be straight bad behavior. Remember, that's always a possibility, right? But if we rest at the bad behavior side of things, we don't ever learn what else it could be. It's very easy to yield to, hey, this person is just bad, call it bad, call them off. The reality is that you're not going to be able to cut them off, because you probably have built a life of some sort, children with them and stuff like that. You need to understand this stuff, because that pain that's making you talk that way, you're going to transplant it into your next relationship. So you need to understand this stuff. Okay, so the way they're always mingling and smiling, they're in the honeymoon phase. They too will pass through that honeymoon phase. Everything is going to be lovely until eventually they will have to go through another phase. The complacency will keep in, because see finish just has entered, right? All right, so let me give you some of the things here that we need to talk about to bring you up to speed. Some points that I think is necessary that we highlight while we're talking about this, right? Men and women's brains have different sizes, brain chemistry, and connections. Do you agree with this? Well, if you look at just the palm of a typical man's hand, right, and a woman's hand is different. I'm not sure how the manosphere and the feminists want to really, you're actively trying to get women to think logically like men, which, by the way, that's not logic, right? But you're just like, they too, they should be adults too. That's not reality. You're going to shoot yourself on the legs every time you say something stupid like that. Okay? It's different. It's just different. Different is not a bad thing. It becomes a bad thing when you don't know what you're doing. Are we getting back in the same place again? Yes, same space. We're getting back into the same space. Difference, right, become a bad thing only when you don't have the skills. Does that make sense? Men's brains are about 10 to 11% larger than women's brains relative to body size. What does that mean? Does that mean men are smarter? Anybody who thinks that way, you also have no real understanding of how the world works. Bigger is not always better. I'm not saying it's not better. We didn't get there yet, but it's not always better. And of course, when you consider all the other 200,000 factors in this situation, it becomes a little bit different, right? So we're talking about multiple layers, multiple variables of differences, right? So this is a good thing. It's not a bad thing, right? But we try to make it out to be a bad thing because, I guess we're supposed to be obsessed. When it comes to connections, women's brains have stronger side-to-side connections, while men's brains have stronger front-to-back connections. I don't know what that means. That was all extra technical. I was trying to read up on it. I was like, no, let's not, because one of the issues here is that we overcomplicate things that can actually be very, very simple. The bottom line is that a man is different from a woman. They're supposed to complement each other. That's literally what differences are, right? But of course, if you make them the same, that means they can create friction, even if it's just an idea in your head, right? Not just when they're the same. Just when you're trying to partner or collaborate with anybody, that's going to create friction, right? But more so when you try to pretend that the reality is not the reality. The reality is that the man is different from the woman. How? We're talking about it right now. Let's talk about the brain chemistry. All right. The brain chemistry, men or women have different brain chemistry, right? As in, like, what makes up the chemicals that creates the actual tissues, the physical, right, of the brain. Like, what else are we talking about? Okay, there's something called the gray matter inside of the brain. I'm just learning this too, right? Men's brain have 6.5 times more gray matter. Gray matter, which is associated with information processing. Listen to that carefully, okay? Men's brains have 6.5 times more gray matter, which is associated with information process. Now, let's think about this a little bit deeper. Information process, there's some information you value as a woman, there's some information a man values. Remember, I told you that when it's a big crisis, like there's going to be calamity, catastrophe, the man gets triggered into reacting. At that point in time, he takes it seriously, right? And he takes that seriously. A woman, it doesn't have to, like small stuff. Relationship matters. She said that yesterday. He said this yesterday. What did you mean by what you said yesterday, right? All of that also is information, right? All of that is information. So it depends on what information we're talking about. But once you find the information valuable enough, right? The man's brain have 6.5% more gray matter, which is associated with information processing. So again, there's additional variables there that we're not talking about yet, in terms of are you going to, like, if I tell you that you didn't check on me yesterday, you just went all day and you never checked on me, is that information that I find worthy to process? If I already don't even find that information worthy enough to process, I'm just going to dismiss it. It doesn't matter. Okay, ma binu. Okay, I'm sorry. Right? Which is why I say all the time here, the I'm sorry thing, for the most part, is probably more destructive, because you get enough of that, you start to feel disconnected from that man. Right? There's another thing called the white matter. Men's brains have a higher percentage of white matter. I didn't really see how that is associated with anything at all, but I guess nice to know. It's another big tissue, just like the rest of the tissue in the body of a man. It's a lot of weight, right? An average man has a heavier weight than a woman. It's just what it is. There's a density, bone densities and stuff like that, right? So congratulations, gentlemen. Your white matter has higher percentage of, your brain has higher percentage of white matter. Let's see. When it comes to the cortex, what is the cortex? Okay, I hear a lot about the cortex. But let's see what it says. It says women's brain have thicker cortices. Right? Women's brain have thicker cortices, which have been linked to higher scores on cognitive and intelligence tests. They like that. They like that. That means we're smarter than men. You think? Cognitive to me is I think it has to do with the ability of the human brain to process information as well, but also to make meanings out of them, right? So when we're talking about the wiring earlier and all that kind of stuff, that's all cognitive abilities, not necessarily a matter of if it's produced good result or not. Obviously, that would depend on what we're talking about. So much context around that. But the fact that the thing is working like that and you're thinking about so many things at the same time, I mean, I think we can also associate that with when Dr. Kingsley says a woman can multitask, right? Once I'm watching a TV, I'm watching that TV. If I'm on my computer, I'm working that computer. And sometimes she's telling me stuff that's going on TV. I say, babe, hold on 1 second. Pause. What do you say? I can. And for her, she can actually process a lot of things at the same time. In that way, as in like thinking, as in like, I don't know, cognitive. Again, perceptions, but conceptualizing stuff, right? That's another ballgame there. But remember, it comes down to what you value, right? So it might seem that way in a family level. Maybe that's where the men need to step their game and say, hey, if it matters to her, make it matter to you. It's a decision. Yeah, we get it. It's not a natural, but you just decide because you know there's a great cost for not paying attention. You don't want to end up in a situation where you're like, I never expected it. We didn't see it coming. This happens literally every time. You did not see it coming. Okay. All right. Another one that we have here, they call it the parietal cortex. Men's brain have a larger parietal cortex, which is involved in space perception. I'm not sure. Is that the nothing box right there? Like, just stare into the air and just think about nothing. Now, that man that we're covering his story earlier on is not the typical man. He's doing most of the talking. It's not the typical man, right? But there are men like that, okay? And also, it depends on what kind of woman you have. Some women just don't talk at all. So it will seem like you talk a lot to them, all right? So it depends. We shall see. Which is involved in space perception. All right. So I don't know. Is that staring into empty nothing? Just being able to be still? Maybe. There's another thing they call the amygdala. I might have butchered that pronunciation. I'm not your scientist. Scientists know be your mate. Anyway, amygdala. Men's brains have a larger amygdala or amygdala, which regulates social and sexual behavior. So this is probably a shocker. Sounds to me that a man can control his sexual urges, right? That would be nice. He's able to do that if he chooses to do that, right? Why? Is it because he doesn't get DMs like that? Maybe, maybe not, right? But if you speak to a woman's soul, if she feels heard, you can penetrate everything. I'm generalizing, calm down, okay? We're talking about 90%, okay, just 80%, okay, maybe just 70%. Majority, okay? If she feels heard, it's literally that easy. Guess what? Is it easy for a man to make a woman feel heard? No, it's extremely hard because he's busy trying to do logic. Like, feel heard. I heard you. What do you mean feel heard? I already heard what you said, right? Chidima says, how about Uncle Steve that said, act like a lady, think like a man? It's a terrible idea, but I didn't really read the book. I don't think I did. Did I read the book? I don't think I read the book. Because if I did, I will remember, right? But I get what he's trying to say. I think he's trying to say what we're doing right now, which is just awareness. I don't think it's that deep, right? He's just trying to tell you, like, hey, you know, but thinking like a man, if I take that literally, you are literally incapable of doing that. You're just going to waste a lot of energy doing that. What you should do is learn how to be a lady. Be extremely good at acting like a lady, whatever that means to you in your culture, in your tradition, in your era, whatever that means to you. That's all you need to do so you can compete, because you are competing either you like it or not. That's just the reality. Okay. There's another thing called the inferior parietal. What is this? Lobule. Inferior parietal lobule. Men's brains have a larger inferior parietal lobule, which is linked to mathematical problems. Okay, estimating time and judging speed. Okay, good. Typically, right? But what do we learn today? We have a situation where women are in the workspace. Okay. They are working 9 to 5, working the very similar jobs, at least administrative level jobs, executive level jobs, and they are having to use their brain at that level. Now, if you understand evolution, it is what it is. They're learning this stuff, and some of them, they are leveraging their cognitive abilities to become better in these spaces. I'm telling you. Okay, so some of these studies that came up with some of this stuff, some of them are outdated. I think one thing we can get out of all of this is very, very simple. Just know that we're different, and it's not a bad thing. It just means you should be aware that we are different. Okay. Here's another one. Women tend to have better reading comprehension. Wahala. So don't judge us in that chat group ever again. Okay. Now you know. Okay. If we are adding extra effort into understanding what you're trying to say, give us some credit. Give us some credit, okay? At least this one is trying. It's not dismissive. So you are saying, is this what you're trying to say? If you see a man doing that, that is not his normal thing, right? He's actually adding some effort to try to understand. It's either that or he has a prize that he set his eyes on. The reality will kick in, will settle into his equilibrium once he's gotten the prize. Now, that could be a temporary thing. It just means it's time to learn something new. Okay. So comprehension, better comprehension, reading comprehension, writing ability, fine motor coordination. Oh, so you could walk like that. Like that's why you can't walk. And perceptual speed. perceptual speed. What does that mean? Somebody help me. They also tend to be better at retrieving information from long time. They don't forget anything. Women don't forget anything. They just remember everything. Don't be juju be that. That's our conclusion with women. Okay? All right? That's our conclusion with women. A couple of things I would like to add before we end the session. Okay? Particularly with respect to your romantic relationship. How is this applicable? I'm sure you've seen this stuff somewhere else before. You're very smart, intelligent people only end up on Man of Prestige, right? But how does this apply in real life? What should you do with this information? First of all, here's the conclusion with men. Men tend to have better visual spatial skills. What does that mean? Visual? They're visual? Is that what that means? I don't know. I'm not going to dig. You go do the work, okay? Such as visualizing rotated shapes. Determining angles, like, right? Tracking moving objects and aiming projectiles. Right? They also tend to be better at juggling items in working memory. All right, so I'm not sure how that matches with what Pastor Kingsley says, that women can multitask. The one thing that makes sense to me in all of this is what I've been saying, and that's something I'm telling you, not from any of the other videos, is the fact that domestic stuff to medium-sized stuff matters to women. Okay, and that's a lot of activity throughout the course of the day. The babies, the children, the family, how I feel, my feelings, right? That matters to women. Okay, so women feel before they reason. Those things, they're feeling it, right? A man reasons before he feels. We're generalizing just at a general scale, right? He reasons before he feels. Both men or women are capable of feeling and reasoning. Does that make sense? I hope it does. They are both capable of reasoning and feeling. The question is, like, in what order? Okay, like the man said earlier on, the nothing box person, women are comfortable with men are comfortable with inactivities, right? Nothing, and women prefer activity to inactivity. It's just a preference. It doesn't mean that they don't like to rest too. It's just a matter of, now it's, when it comes to women, it's a matter of preference, right? Then also, men's stress level, what causes stress in men is not the same thing that causes stress in women. Okay, so there are studies that show that low levels of testosterone will cause stress in men. The question is that what causes low levels of testosterone? There's so much that goes into that science that when it comes to your romantic relationship, you don't have to really worry that much about this kind of stuff, right? Really, it's very simple. Just go back to how you met that person. Okay, go back to what the vibe was when you met. Okay, sometimes going back to the basics is all you need to do. Okay, so high estrogen in men stresses men out, right? So there's some chemical stuff around that. There's hormones and all this oxytocin. There's all this. By the time you start cracking your brain about all this stuff, you don't worry about that. High level men and women, we're different. How we process information are different, right? So ladies, what you can bring to the table in all of that is grace. I've said that before. Grace simply means you don't have it all the time, but once in a while you drop a little bit. Like, say, hey, here's some grace for a man that I love. It goes a long way, right? And you will actually see him adjust to that. Okay, I literally don't remember anything that happened 10 years ago for the most part, okay? Especially, I can't. This, you know. And I gotta be careful with saying it's because I'm feeding the family and it's because I'm paying money or making money to feed it. I gotta be careful with that, because after all, isn't that what you're supposed to do, right? There's another studies that I saw that shows that women have increased blood flow to emotional centers. Okay, there's certain parts of the brain that are known for emotion, processing emotions and stuff like that. There's a lot more blood flows to that. You know, the blood also flows to where there's activity going on. If there's activity, usual activities going on, from a primitive standpoint, from a evolution standpoint, from a natural biology standpoint, well, if blood is flowing there, it's because it's being used. Okay, so, and there's another study that I also saw. It's somebody, I'm not sure if it's that video. No, it's not that video. Something else that shows that men actually need extremely high testosterone levels in order to be able to speak publicly. Right? So a man who is a speaker, natural speaker, that tells you something. There's a correlation there, okay, that you might want to pay attention to. Now, like I said, what do you do with this information? Okay, these are some of the areas where there's challenges. Stress management, right? Emotional disconnect, right? A woman connects by talking, right, about the issues, not talking on a good day. That's easy. Shout out to Brother Ben. I see you, bro. Not talking on a good day. That's easy. I'm talking about when there's crisis. When there's crisis and you're talking to him, he might be feeling like you're talking at him. He does not appreciate confrontations. He does not, okay, forget appreciate, okay? Because he's a man, he's supposed to just know, Abi. He does not, he almost does not respond well to confrontations. What should you do with that? Should that not be a woman? No, just be aware. Because when you are aware, you move a little bit slightly different. And that helps a lot. Just one little needle move like that can move a lot, right? So emotional disconnect, we get it. You want to connect back to them when there's some kind of distress going on, but there's a couple of things you need to pay attention to. You know, there's another video I saw, I think it's a TED talk, and the guy said, you know, learn how to say 3 things that makes sense. Not lie, but look for opportunities to say that makes sense, right? Good idea. That also means you're listening. That means this is your practice. You're active listening too as a woman, right? So if you're able to listen long enough until you see an opportunity to say that makes sense, boom, then you start to feel like, of course that makes sense. I'm a man. I'm her man, right? Then another one's a good idea, right? And then the third one says, you're right. You're right. Just saying you're right, right? Now again, don't lie if you don't feel like they're right. But if you're actively listening, they're going to say something, right, that you feel like you're right. You're right. You know, I just think, like, see, that's less confrontational. This was just my thought around that, right? Because naturally, when there are quote unquote big issues to you, but it's at a small to medium-sized domestic level, you know, those small things that we're like, that's not a real big issue. We handle that. Babe, I got it. But you're like, no, I can't sleep, right? But he got it, right? In that moment in time, those are the kind of things that creates this level of misunderstanding that we're talking about, right? So, of course, with that being said, another place where you're going to find these issues, again, this man and woman different thing. It's not just here say we talk so you can just argue for the sake of arguing. We're talking about people that are dealing with real life issues, okay? Like I said, stress management issues. You're dealing with some kind of stress, some kind of crisis, adversity, emotional disconnect. We're talking thirdly, conflict resolution. How many times do you want me to tell you? When it's time to resolve conflict, all of this is going to be tested. You better know that your husband, his brain is not working the same way like yours in that moment in time. I hope you know. Okay? Because if you don't know, if you're not self-aware enough about that, that's going to create basketballs that you have to deal with. Because remember, you need to be talking to him in order to connect. But how are you going to do that? That's what makes the difference, right? Adapting to change and expectations. Change and expectations, right? We've talked about that. When it's time to manage expectation, it's a very stressful activity on the brain of a man. Like, it's not that deep. No, but what do you mean it's not that deep? Right? It's a struggle. This is where we have to deal with it, right? And of course, navigating intimacy issues. You have an intimacy issues, sex problems, sexless marriage problems. tackle things from an emotional standpoint. That's probably all you have to do. All right. All that kanyamata stuff, you probably don't need that. At least not yet. Okay. Okay. At least not yet. She doesn't want to have a sex for some kind of emotional reason, for the most part, unless there's some kind of existing or diagnosed medical condition, in which case you would know. But if you're confused about this, there's a good chance that you're completely disconnected. Okay. Here's the lesson for men. It's only one thing. Okay. Small things matter and create an impact. Gentlemen, listen to me carefully. Small things matter and they create a large impact. Whatever is the small things that you think is so small that she's asking for, if you do it for her, it creates a large impact that favors you. Oh, so that's happy wife and happy life. That's your problem. You're just getting triggered. These are the issues. Why are you getting triggered? We have not said happy wife, happy life yet. What we are saying is very simple. Small things. Those small little things that she seems like she's nagging about, right? If you just calm down, right, and listen to the last part of this sentence, they create big impact that benefits you. Once you do it 1, 2, or 3 times and you actually experience that, you experience what that looks like. No, but I won't have to teach you again, because obviously there's rewards, great rewards for it. It's really that simple. She has to worry about making sure you feel macho. She has to rub and stroke your ego by telling you you're right. It makes sense. Good idea, right? You have to worry about one thing. Just know that those small things makes a large impact. All right. Women's stress levels are twice as high as men's overall and 4 times higher at home. Another study shows. At home, in your own house, your wife is 4 times more stressed than you, and you're asking questions. What is stressing her? I provide everything. Anyway. Generally speaking, men withdraw to problem solve. Women perceive this as dismissive. Right? I got it. No, but you can just do it like that, do it like that, and problem is solved. She actually wants to talk through it. So she's thinking of you as an asshole, essentially. No, she didn't say it because she's a respectful woman with home training. But that's actually what her emotions are telling her. I know. Where'd you get all of this from, Ola? All of this stuff we've been talking about is not aligning for you. Anyway, women seek connection through discussion when men may find it confrontational. We already talked about that, right? So, listen. 2 additional tips for both of you, men or women. Active listening. Okay? Because, ladies, it allows you to look for opportunities to seduce him by telling him he's right, when he's actually right, of course. And then you practice your own patience too, right? By telling him, good idea, when it's actually a good idea, right? Or you might flip and say, that's not a bad idea, but what do you think about this other idea? Just communication skills. Not just communication, actual skills, okay? And then the other one. What was the third one again? You just tell him it's right, okay? It makes sense, good idea, he's right. Okay? Gentlemen, your work is actually a lot more. I'm sorry, okay? For both of you, active listening, united front. That's the key. Active, you're always making your way to active listening and creating a united front. But gentlemen, your work is leadership, okay? So when we say active listening, when we say having a vision, being able to communicate that vision on an ongoing basis, recognizing that this is a moving target, because that's not even her strength. When something is moving, she can't stay focused on it. You can pick from angle like, hey, let's employ that in your marriage. Make your marriage important. I know to you it's not like, oh brain, just do what you're supposed to do. Like, this thing is so simple, just talk to me. Well, if it's not that simple, make it simple. That becomes your responsibility. By this one thing, just understanding that this little small things create large impact. It's literally leverage. She's the incubator, right? Whatever you bring to her, she tends to multiply and reciprocate. Why would you not want to engage and take advantage of? That's like shooting yourself on the legs, right? So, conclusion: men and women are different. We are different, and that's a good thing. We complement each other, but not when you don't know what you're doing. When you don't know what you're doing, it's glass-bows. All right. Shout out to everybody. So, if that picture, I think everybody is starting to settle into the idea of Yul, Edochie, and Judy. I think everybody is starting to settle into a small. Like, I think this might be real. What do you guys think? I think this might be real because she said something. Okay, you might be wondering, how did she make it to this screen today? She actually said something. Okay, let me show you. This is what she said. Oh, let's round up with this one. Don't choose to be loved. Wait. Don't choose to be loved because. Wait, what kind of English is this? Don't choose to be loved because of people. What? Let's see the details. Regardless of how much most people downgrade having a loving spouse in your life, nothing is more precious than being in love and being loved in return. Okay, at least she said being loved in return, right? Being loved in return. Nothing is more precious, and it's the best feeling in the world. Live your life to the fullest. Don't live for anybody but for yourself. True love is hard to come by, and if you're lucky enough to find it, protect it, cherish it, fight for it, nourish it. I like the nourish it part. That's what we're talking about, right? The grass always seems greener on the other side. It's because somebody is watering it. Pray for it, adore it, and reciprocate with everything you've got. Don't choose to be lonely because of people that don't really care for you. Nothing but love from here always. But of course, the troll will not let her rest. Husband snatcher button. Ha! 204 people hit that button. Thief don't drop quote. Ha! So in your mind, you have your found love. Did you? Okay. Did you? So it was either Yule or loneliness. They play. She's telling you now for real. This is real life. Okay. Go and work hard to feed your plenty children and stop announcing love like a teenager. God forbid this kind woman. Ha! Jesus, is that a man or a woman? Ha! It's a woman. Oh, Bernie. Women supporting women straight in the poro.
Oh, Bernie.
Oh, Lord. Anyway, okay, now continue in patience. Jonathan voice. Me, I will rest today. Continue a bit about. Nah, good. I'm good. I'm never gonna settle. You will settle down in Jesus' name. Chidima, say amen. Okay? Say amen. Thank you, MOP. Thank you, Melga. Shanice. Thank you. I'm never gonna settle into you and you let. Oh, that part. Okay, no, you shouldn't settle. Yeah, you shouldn't settle. I agree. But you settle. I thought you were gonna settle down. Like you settle down. No. Mommy Gio is preaching. Anyway, the overall lesson, honestly, with this man and woman thing, I think I've said it. It's useful for you when you find yourself in crisis. It's not and it's inevitable. It's gonna happen somehow, some way, someday. I think it's helpful to just know that the other person is probably reading things from a different angle, from a different perspective. Like they're seeing things quite differently, right? And whoever is complaining should lead. That's my personal rule. If I get to complain, you can borrow it. If I'm complaining, then I should lead. I should lead us out of the funk. Okay. When everything else fails, I prefer it to be the man because he claims, generally speaking, that he wants to lead. So he should just go ahead and do exactly that. Just lead. Okay. It's funky in your marriage. You don't like what you're seeing. Change it. That's going to require a lot of patience on your part. It's going to require understanding. It's going to require active listening. It's going to require, above all, emotional intelligence. So it's not going to be as simple as she's just evil. Well, that's your evil woman. What are you going to do about it? That's what it comes down to, right? Coconut head no get time to massage ego, but to explain themselves. It's a struggle. It's a struggle. Let me give you another quick tip. There's some men that are the exception, and there's some women that are the exceptions, right, to the rules or seeming rules that we've just set forth, right? That a man, you know, he just want to withdraw and go solve the problem. That's what makes him a man. A woman just want to talk through the problem. Good, okay? So you will find some exception. If you find yourself to be the exception, keep in mind the social intelligence aspect of these things. He's still a man and he's looking at other men, right? And some of his friends are going to call him a dummy, right? And that's not going to produce good fruit, or fruit rather, right? So just keep that at the back of your mind that he might be the exception. They talking to. But that's your husband too, right? That's your husband. And he was talking smooth and you loved it when you married him, right? Just have this at the back of your mind. He happens to be the exception, but you still want to be a woman and you would like to be the one talking the most. Assess all of that in your work. All of this that I've just said is easier said than done. You need support system. You need help, okay? You need support system. You need help. We've written books to cover this kind of stuff with real life stories in them. Go download them, getmymarriageback.com. And if you are really in a very messy situation, you need a support system, sign up for, just book a complimentary session. You will see it when you downloaded the book, book a complimentary session, and then we'll take it from there. We'll see if you're fit for our program, okay? But we thank God. We're trying to do the Lord's work here, okay? All right, been there, done that. All right. She was about to convert me, oh blood of Jesus. Who is converting you? Mommy Gio. So you guys don't believe her? Come on now. What she said makes sense, you know. That's why it's good to give a man his man time to help him balance out. That's a good point, film girl. Absolutely. You know, but he should also know that he needs his man time, you know. But if you are, we have, like I said earlier on, there's a lot of evolution still going on. The next 50 years is going to be very interesting. Some of this stuff we're talking about are outdated, right? But when we say outdated, it's not a switch, right? Some people still have the values. Some people are moving faster than the others. Some people are calling them woke, right? Some of you are going to end up marrying somebody who is woke or less woke, right? So it's just active listening, see where they're coming from. That's always going to be useful. That's always going to be useful. You stay calm, you don't have to respond. You say, hey, I hear you. That makes sense. You're right. Good idea. Right? Gentlemen, bring her close and say, no, don't pull her head like that, but just come closer, you know. Say, you have no idea how much I love you. Every night, just say that. Like, where's that one coming from? I beg you. It worked. Don't get it twisted. It worked. She needs to be reassured from time to time. Why? Because our brain is connected with everything. It's so connected that when you say something like that, something nice like that, she melts. What is this supposed to mean? But it's not. She's starting to wonder. She's getting attracted to you, and then life is good for the next one day at least. One day at a time. Don't stress yourself, gentlemen. You deserve soft life too. But me, that like my me time, uncle. I wonder what's in that box. You like your me time? Get your me time. I think everyone likes me time, you know. Everyone likes me time. You like to be alone sometime. That's okay. Just communicate that, you know. Just communicate that. Don't act like you're sleeping when you're not sleeping. Don't do that. That's bad. That's against the scriptures. Yes, so finger, men need to go to their nothing room, aka, no, it's mental. It's mental. Nothing room, it's like, I don't want to think about issues now. Okay, that's what some people mean when they say, hey, the best thing a woman can bring to a man is peace of mind. Like, bro, really, you need that from a woman? The woman that cannot rest, the woman that prefers activity over inactivity. You want peace of mind? Okay. If you say so. Keep playing. So shout out to you all. I appreciate you. There was no donations. There was no super chat. Come on. All right. You can sponsor the show even after the show for as little as 99 cents. It's right there on that joy button. Without any further ado, with that being said, at least do me a favor. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications. Hopefully you've been enlightened, educated. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
It's your love that I've been missing. I miss all your hugs, your touching and kissing. Make love on the floor, the couch in the kitchen. One love enough, we done enough.